This conference will now be recorded.
Camera also you can see, Prabhu. I just want to confirm.
Yes, Mataji, we can see.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam to all the devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to Gurudev.
One request, Mataji, if you don't mind, can you slightly adjust your camera so that your full face is visible?
Yes, Prabhu.
And also, if you can put, yes, Mataji, now it is fine. And if possible, you can put it the presentation in slideshow. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Welcome to all for the online session of Srimad Bhagavatam Smaranam. As Prabhu was saying, last year we had Sri Krishna Rasamalayam. There was so sweet memories. We could not never forget. Even though the session is going on online, I could see the devotees coming here and listening to Bhagavad Katha. Even now also I feel like all the devotees are present around me. And by Krishna's mercy, we are going to finish Canto 4 today by this chapter, chapter 31. Before that, I would like to chant the opening prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirete. Hare Krishna. Today's chapter is Narada instruct Prachetas. The conversation, we already know how the Bhagavatam Sambhashana is going on. First with Sukadeva Goswami, King Parikshit Maharaj. Then in that it is going to sage King Vidura is submissively asking about all the pastimes of Lord Krishna. So sage Maitreya is explaining to King Vidura. And in that Sambhashana, we are going to see today's topic, how Narada is instructing Prachetas. This is the chapter overview. Who are Prachetas? How Prachetas got entangled in Grahastha life? What are the instructions given by Narada Muni? And what is pure devotional service? So yesterday, Her Grace Subhashini Mataji has already explained the descendants of how these Prachetas have come. So here is the flowchart. Like it comes from Manu, from there it comes to Uttanapada, and then all the descendants from Dhruva Maharaj, then Prithu Maharaj, then it comes to Antardana. From there it comes to Havirdana, where he will be having 6 sons, and the eldest son is Prachina Barhi. Prachina Barhi was married to Satvaduti. Then they begot the sons 10 Prachetas, and these 10 Prachetas married to Marisha. So they got the son Daksha. So for today's topic, Narada instruct Prachetas. So it is correlated to previous chapter. So we just overview the chapter summary of 30 chapter. 30 chapter is the activities of Prachetas. So here, as we discussed the chapter overview, who are the Prachetas? So Prachetas are the sons of King Prachina Barhi. They are known as the Prachetas. So the Prachetas, they are they undergone very severe austerities within the sea water to carry out the order of their father. So by chanting the mantras given by Lord Shiva, yesterday we have seen that Lord Shiva's glorification. We have seen Mataji has very nicely explained about the Rudra Geetam. So the Prachetas are glorifying, are chanting the mantras of Lord Shiva, and they were able to satisfy Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So at the end, like that, they are continuing the austerities for 10,000 years. So at the end of 10,000 years, then the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, was so much pleased, and he rewarded their austerities, and he appeared in front of them in Garuda Vahana with 8 hands. You can see in this picture as Vishnu is coming in Garuda. Here you can see the personality of Godhead appearing on the shoulder of Garuda seemed like a cloud resting on the summit of the mountain known as Meru. So he was here. Prachetas are very blissful to see Lord Vishnu. When they saw Vishnu, they started glorifying him. How the appearance of Vishnu, as how he looks like. The Lord's face was very beautiful, and his head was decorated with a shining helmet and golden ornaments with 800 hands, and he was surrounded by all the demigods also with their associates. So like that, Lord appeared him to the Prachetas, and then the Prachetas offered their prayers to Lord Vishnu. Then Lord was so much, he was blessed them with so many. The Sambhashana was going on with the Prachetas and Lord Vishnu. In this chapter, there was so many translations, purports are there. In that, it was explaining all this Sambhashana between the Prachetas and Vishnu, how the austerities and how they have to be there in their life. So then Lord was so happy that they were doing the austerities in together for many years, and he was so much pleased that they don't have any occupation. They have only the occupation is to do devotional service. So he blessed them for celestial years to be rule the kingdom, even in the material or even in the heavenly planet. Then he blessed them that you will have a nice son who will be in no way inferior to Lord Brahma. Consequently, he will be very famous all over the universe, and the sons and grandsons generated by him will fill the 3 worlds. So here the son will be the Daksha. So then after this Sambhashana, they offer the prayers to Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thereafter all the Prachetas, they emerged from the water of the sea. So they were meditating for so many hundreds of thousands of years. When they came out, emerged from the water, then they saw that all the trees on land had grown very tall, as if they would obstruct the path of the heavenly planets. So the trees, it was covered by the entire surface of the world. So what happened? Then they became very angry. Then after seeing that, they started emitting fire and air from the mouth. So even looking at this, even Lord Shiva also emits fire and air from the mouth. After seeing this, all the trees on the surface of earth were being turned to ashes. Then Lord Brahma immediately he came to see, and he pacified them. And then the orders by Lord Brahma, all the Prachetas, they accepted the girl Marishi. So and they got married, and from them the Daksha has born. So from here we will continue our chapter. The Narada instruct Prachetas. So here the Daksha was born in previous slide. Now we will see what happens, how the Prachetas are doing in their Grahastha life and how they got liberated, and why Narada is instructing to Prachetas. They are already blessed with Lord Vishnu, but still they have forgotten some instructions given by Lord Vishnu. So now we will see what are the instructions given by Narada Muni. Now it is the 4.31.1 shloka. Maitreya uvacha tata utpanna vignana asvadoksa cha bhasitam smarantatmaje bharyam visrijya pravajan grahat. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. The great sage Maitreya continued, the Prachetas lived at home for thousands of years and developed perfect knowledge in spiritual consciousness. At last, they remembered the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and left home, putting their wife in charge of the perfect son. Here the Lord, before chapter we have seen that Lord blessed them after finishing their austerities, and he told that they will return, you will return back to Godhead after finishing your Grahastha life and all the things. Then Prachetas, they are leading their Grahastha life for many thousands of years. Then after certain, in that period, they got entangled with the family members, and so they have forgotten what are the instructions given by Lord Vishnu. So here we have the, like in Vedic civilization, we had the 4 Varnashrama system, like Brahmacharya, Grahastha Ashram, Vanaprastha and Sannyasi. So in Brahmacharya life, the Brahmacharya life starts from the Kaumaran age it starts, and it is from 5 to 25 years. So this entire Varnashrama system is beautifully explained in Canto 7 in Ideal Family Life. It is explained in detail what are the things you have to do in all the Varnashrama system. So I will give a brief description of this Brahmacharya life. They will, in this age, they will learn all the scriptures, all the Vedas, and they will do austerities, and they gain the knowledge, and they understand the existence of Lord. Then they are allowed to go into Grahastha life. In this life, they both husband and wife, they keep Krishna as center and do all the austerities and do all the sadhanas, and they can raise the children in Krishna consciousness. So like that, but here also there is a problem that the Maya comes anytime, as we know. So they may again entangle with the family affection, they may forget the Supreme Lord. So here the Prachetas also got entangled with that, and they forgot the instructions given by Lord Vishnu. So after a period of time, they realize that we have to go back to our Godhead. Then Daksha, so they in charged his son Daksha to his mother to take care of his mother. So here in the puppet, Prabhupada gave a beautiful explanation how Prahalad Maharaj is explaining this. Giving up a comfortable home life is absolutely necessary for human beings and is advised by Prahalad Maharaj. Itvatma patam griham andakupam. To finish the materialistic way of life, one should leave his so-called comfortable home life, which is simply a means for killing the soul, Atma Patam. The home is considered to be a dark well covered by grass, and if one falls within this well, he simply dies without anyone's caring. So one should therefore not too much attach it to family life, for it will spoil one's development of Krishna consciousness. So after this, the Prachetas left to do austerities again to go back to Godhead. Then they went to seashore to perform their austerities, and penance. Then there they saw a great sage, Jajali, was residing, and this Jajali sage was not an ordinary sage because he already achieved mukti. So if one should desire perfection, they should associate it with a person who is already liberated. So this is called sadhu sangha, association with a pure devotee. It is also described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, as every day we are reciting this shloka. I think many of us by hearted this shloka, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says about sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha, sadhu sangha. Sarvasastrekaya lavamatra sadhu sange sarvasiddhi haya. As Mahaprabhu says, simply by moment association with a sadhu, with a devotee, one can attain the perfection. So then here, after going there, then Pracheta started doing their pranayama, controlling their life, in air, mind, birds, and external vision. They started the pranayama process. While they were practicing, the great sage Narada Muni, we all know that Narada Muni is one of the spiritual master and is Mahamuni, who is worshipped by both demons and demigods, came to see them. For him, Narada Muni has no other business. He always glorifies Lord Krishna and do bhajans, and he always glorifies the pastimes of Lord Vishnu, and he also liberates the souls. Now we are seeing the examples Prachetas. So for him, all the doors in all the planets are open, and wherever he goes, he is well respected. So here Narada is considered one of the demigods, and word Devarshi means the saintly person among the demigods. As soon as the Prachetas saw the Narada, they got up from their asana, and they respected and offered obeisances and worshipped him because he is the first spiritual master. So if we want to know how to attain bhakti, we should be very submissive to our guru. So because he is the only one who can liberate us from this material bondage. So Prachetas paid their obeisances, and when they saw Narada Muni was properly seated, they began to ask questions. All Prachetas began to address the great sage Narada. O great sage, O Brahmana, we hope you met with no disturbances while coming here. It is due to our great fortune that we are now able to see you. Dear Master, kindly enlighten us in transcendental knowledge which may act as a torchlight by which we may cross the dark near sense of material existence. So here the Prachetas are explaining why that they have entangled with the material life. So they forgot the instructions given by Lord Vishnu. So they are again asking Lord Narada Muni to glorify the pastimes of Lord Vishnu. The great sage Narada said, here, when a living entity is born to engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Controller, his birth, all his fruitive activities, his lifespan, his mind, and his words are all factually perfect. Here, Narada Muni is especially speaking about the human birth, how much important, and this is the easy way to do our devotional service with prema. And here in the verse slokas from 10 to 13, here Narada Muni explaining all the births, how he is instructing to Prachetas. A civilized human being has three kinds of births. The first birth is by a pure father and mother, and this birth is called birth by semen. And the next birth takes place when one is initiated by the spiritual master, and this birth is called Savitra. And the third birth called Ejnika, this takes place when they are given opportunity to worship Lord Vishnu. Here we need to know what is the Ejnika birth. So by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra regularly and following all the regulative principles, we may become qualified and initiated by Brahmana. Because one Unless one is qualified Brahmana, he cannot be allowed to worship Lord Vishnu. This is called Yajnika Janma. As Prahlad Maharaj says, Vipra Dvisad Guna Yutad Aravinda Nava Pada Aravinda Vimukaj Swapacham Varistam. Even if one is a Brahmana and is qualified with all Brahmanical qualifications, he is considered degraded if he is averse to worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if a person is attached to the service of Lord, he becomes glorified, even if he is born in a Chandala family. So even we are not a qualified Brahmana, if we are start worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we can attain his love, is prema bhakti. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also tells about this to Sanatana Goswami, that without a touch of devotional service, jnana, yoga, and Sankhya philosophy, this cannot give one the desired result. And even Lord, in Bhagavad Gita also, Lord confirms this in Shloka 10.10, Tesam satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvatkam dadami buddhi yogantam ena mam upayantite. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. And next, coming to this Shloka 14, this is very important shloka in this whole chapter, where Narada Muni explains, he gives the examples how the role of the gods and how they function, and what is the and how they give benefits to us. यथा तरोर्मूलनिषेचेन तृप्यन्ति तत्स्कन्धभुजोपशाखः प्राणोपहारश्चायतेन्द्रियाणं तथैव सर्वाहनमच्युतेजा. Translation: as pouring water on the root of a tree energizes the trunk, branches, twigs, and everything, and as supplying food to the stomach enlivens the sense and limbs of the body, simply worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead through devotional service automatically satisfies the demigods who are parts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here we can understand that the ultimate purpose is to serve Krishna, not to any demigods. So what the demigods do, they only satisfy our material benefits, and these material benefits also, it will get approval by Lord Krishna only. So I was listening to one of the lecture by His Grace Bhakti Chara Swami Maharaj. He was telling about the Govardhan Leela, like when Krishna has stopped Indra Puja and asked the Nanda Maharaj and all the Brajavasis to worship Govardhan. So Krishna, he asked the two questions to all the Brahmanas who are present there and all the Brajavasis and Nanda Maharaj before they worship the Govardhan Puja. He asked these two questions. No one worship Indra in the middle of the ocean, and in the middle of ocean there is no need of water. So why do we worship Indra in the middle of the ocean? So here we have to understand, Indra is doing his duty as demigods. They do their duty. We no need to pray separately, because the ultimate goal is to reach Goloka, is to please Krishna. So the another question is, when you offer foodstuffs to Indra, then Krishna asked, does he eat like Indra will eat? Then Nanda Maharaj and all the Brahmanas, they told, no, he will just satisfy. But when you offer Govardhan, he will eat. And Krishna showed them how he is taking the Mahaprasadam, what all the Brajavadis are offering to Govardhan. So we have to know who is the controller of everything. And it says in Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Krishna is the root of everything. Therefore, rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna means automatically serving all the demigods. As it is also mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishne Bhakti Kaila Sarva Karma Krita Haya. If one is engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything is automatically accomplished. And from the verses 15 to 20, there are certain analogies where Narada Muni is explaining to Prachetas. During the rainy season, water is generated from the sun, and in due course of time, during the summer season, the same water is again absorbed by the sun. So similarly, all living entities moving and inert are generated from the earth, or again after some time they all return to the earth as dust, as it is Krishna also tells in Bhagavad Gita 9.4, Matstani Sarva Bhutani. Although Krishna is not personally present everywhere, his energy is the cause of all creation. The entire cosmic manifestation is nothing but a display of Krishna's energy. Like how the sunshine is non-different from sun, cosmic manifestation is also non-different from Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here we have to, like when, for example, if we take when we sleep, we think all our senses are inactive, but this doesn't mean that our senses are absent. But again, when we are awake, all the senses became active. So similarly, the cosmic creation will sometimes annihilate, will sometimes manifest by Krishna himself. So here he is continuing. My dear kings, sometimes in the sky there are clouds, sometimes there is darkness, and sometimes there is illuminations. So till Narada Muni is giving the explanations how these causes are happening. According to Vedic calculations, there are three causes of creation: time, the ingredient, and the creator. So combining all these, this is called Triyatmaka, the three causes. As it is also confirmed in Brahma Samhita, Sarva Karana Karanam. Narada Muni therefore advises the Prachetas to worship the direct cause, that is the Krishna. And here we saw how Narada is instructing and how he is describing Lord Krishna, and how he is giving the analogies. So the Prachetas, now they have understood the how we have to serve Krishna. Then here he is explaining how Krishna will satisfy by our service, by our seva. So there are some ways in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be satisfied by the devotee. The first item mentioned is Dayaya Sarva Bhuteshu, showing mercy to all the conditioned souls. The best way to show mercy is to spread Krishna consciousness. To spread Krishna consciousness movement throughout the world, the devotee should satisfy in all conditions. Narayana Phara Sarve Nakutuschana Bibhyati Svargapavarga Narakeshva Apitulyata Darshinata. This is explained in Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 17, and Shloka number 28. It does not matter to the pure devotee if he has to go to hell to preach. The Supreme Lord lives in the heart of a hog. Although the Lord is in Vaikuntha, even while preaching in hell, a pure devotee remains a pure devotee by his constant association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To attain this state, one has to control his senses. The senses are automatically controlled when one's mind is engaged in the service of the Lord. Then then the sage Maitreya continued, my dear King Vidura, Sri Narada Muni, the son of Lord Brahma, thus described all the relationships with the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the Prachetas. Afterwards, he returned to Brahmaloka. Here, Sukadeva Goswami said, he have described about all the descendants of first son of Swayambhu Manu, that is Uttanapada. Then So by listening all these things, the Prachetas, they got they liberated, and then they want to meditate on Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna's lotus feet. So hearing from Narada's mouth the glories of the Lord which vanquish all the ill fortune of the world, then the Prachetas also become attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, meditating on his lotus feet, and then they advance to the ultimate destinations. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 18.65, Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evaisyasi satyam che pratijane priyo asmimi. Always think of me and become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. So this is the straight way of explaining how we can go back to Godhead. Then from verse 26 to 31, here it is explaining about the Maharaj Priyavarta. So till now we have seen the first son of Swayambhu Manu, Uttanapada. Now we are seeing the second son, descendants of second Manu, that is Priyavarta. Although they have received so many instructions from the great sage Narada, he still engaged in ruling the earth. After fully enjoying material possessions, he divided his property among his sons. He then attained a position by which he could return home back to Godhead. So here Prachetas are already got mukti, and then he is going to explain about the descendants of Maharaj Priyavrata. So this Maharaj Priyavrata descendants will come in the next canto, canto 5. In the next session, you will be seeing all the descendants of his family and how they got liberated, and who are the great personalities and what are the pastimes coming in that descendants we will be seeing in the next session. So now here Vidura said, O great mystic, O greatest of all devotees, by your causeless mercy, I have been shown the path of liberation from this world of darkness. By following this path, a person liberated from the material world can return home back to God. Then Sukadeva Goswami continued. Then Vidura offered his obeisances unto the great sage Maitreya, and taking his permission, started for the city of Hastinapura to see his kinsmen, although he had no material desires. After listening this Bhagavata Katha, all the pastimes of Lord Krishna, Vidura was already liberated. He has no material desire. So, but still he has to go to see his kinsman because he was belonged to the royal family of the Kauravas, and he knew that all the family members were destroyed in the battle of Kurukshetra. He just wanted to see his elder brother Dhritarashtra. So if he could deliver Dhritarashtra from the clutches of Maya. So he paid his obeisances and he started to Hastinapur. Then, O king, those Sukadeva Goswami is continuing, O king, those who hear these topics about kings who are completely surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead obtain without difficulty a long life, wealth, good reputation, good fortune, and ultimately the opportunity to return home back to Godhead. So here in this, we have seen how the Prachetas got liberated, how they got mukti by the instructions of the spiritual master Narada Muni. And Narada Muni not only liberated the Prachetas, he also liberated so many personalities we have seen in Canto 4, like Dhruva Maharaj. All the Leelas we have seen from past last week onwards. And here we have seen in this chapter, it is how the Prachetas got liberated from this material world. And this is the takeaway for today's session. How humble should a devotee to be with his spiritual master? And bhakti is the only process to attain the mukti. And Srimad Bhagavatam, it not only describes the Lord and his devotees, but the whole subject matter is the glorification of the Lord. It is naturally the glorification of his devotees also. So by this chapter, we are finishing the Canto 4. And next section, we will see the Canto 5, how the second son of Manu, Priyavrata, and their descendants are going to see glorifying the Lord. So, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. By this, I am concluding my session. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much for the nice and elegant presentation with relevant images wherever applicable, and also well managed within time. So I request devotees to have raised queries or comments if anything. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Dandal Pranam.
Yes,
Prabhu, I wanted Ratnangi Revati Mataji to come on the screen. And I want her to comment. And I'm sure she'll be very pleased. One of the devotees who were mentored by Mataji for a long time and are part of her congregation, and has come up to this level of taking such a nice class, calm, quiet, focused, objective oriented, fully compliance to the guidelines. I wanted to see Ratnangi Mataji's happy face, and I wanted to see what she is going to tell when you see the devotee whom you mentor comes to this kind of a level.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, it's really wonderful to see they're all speaking. It is all Krishna's mercy and Guru Maharaj mercy, definitely, and their sincere effort. Without that, nothing is going to fall in place. They have taken it very seriously and following all the reading regularly. They're all reading. So it is definitely their own effort and blessings of Guru Maharaj that they are in this level now. Very, very happy, Prabhu. Definitely, yes. Of course, very happy, and hope they will take this for for long, and then as Guru Maharaj says and Prabhupada says that spread this knowledge to entire humanity. So hope they will do it nicely. Very nice to see, Prabhu. Thanks for this opportunity that you have given me to glorify her. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
We'll take the Rajendra Dwarkanath Prabhu's permission, and we are going to send this recording to Mataji's parents.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Actually, I am not at all satisfied. I was little nervous looking at the camera. I was talking to myself only. I could not put the points what I have prepared. But really, thank you for giving permission and giving this little seva to glorify the Lord in this online session, even though we are in lockdown. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Anyone has got any questions or comments? We have 5 minutes. I think 5 minutes is there. So can open up your audio. I think no questions. Haribol. Okay. So now, if there is any questions, like our Jagan Prabhu says, we can put it in the comment or in the chat box, which can be answered later. Now we can call Dimanta, our Bhakta Dimanta is there. Dimanta, are you there? Aribol, very nice. So we will hear one Vaishnava bhajan from Dimanta.
10 minutes.
10 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next lecture. Hare Krishna.
This
I take this
conference will
opportunity
now be recorded.
to pay my obeisances to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Jagannath Swami. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaur. Chandini Vishesha Srimati Pasha Pradesh. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I have been given this opportunity to learn about Lord Rishabdeva and his instructions to his sons. So to start with, Lord Rishabdeva was the Supreme Personality himself, and there is a family tree from where we can see how Lord Rishabdeva has appeared. So I just shared this family tree. So basically, this is the family tree of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he created Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma then for progenation, he created Manus, and out of all these Manus, this Swayambhuva Manu, he married to Shatarupa Devi, and they have kids: Priyavata, Uttanapada, Akuti, Prasuti, Devahuti, and it's Priyavrata. This he is the son. He got Priyavrata. He has got one daughter and 13 sons. So this daughter married to Shukracharya, and that is a separate lineage. And out of 13 sons, 3 became sannyasis. Out of 13 sons, 3 became sannyasis and 3 became manus, and rest of the 7 became the rulers of 7 islands. So this is the history of actually the 7 continents, from where the 7 continents have come from. So this is the history where these 7 continents were actually coming from this lineage. So out one of the 7 sons is Agnidhra. Agnidhra was a son of Priyavrata. So he was actually ruling Jambudvipa. So out of the 7 islands, he was ruling the Jambudvipa. So so when Priyavrata gave all the sons all these 7 islands, and he just went for renouncing, and he handed over all his responsibility to Agni, to all his 7 sons. Out of 7 sons, Agnidhra was the main who was ruling the Jambudvipa. Agnidhra was actually he for a long time, Agnidhra was actually wanting for sons. So what he did, he did a lot of austerities and penances, and he went to Mandara mountain, and then he was in a cave performing his penance. So that time Brahma, by his knowledge, he actually knew that Agnidhra wanted son. So he sent one beautiful celestial girl, Purva Chitti, So she went there, and then they looked at each other, and they got married. And from there they got 9 sons. She carried in her womb, and they gave birth to 9 sons. And these 9 sons were married to 9 daughters of Meru. Meru is another chapter, and so we will go through these 9 sons. So out of these 9 sons, Nabhi is the eldest one. So eldest one, Nabhi, and Nabhi married to Meru Devi, who is the daughter of Meru. So in this period, like when Agnidra decided to renounce his life, then he gave all his responsibility to his 9 sons, and then he went for renounce, and then these 9 sons came in. So out of these 9 sons, eldest one is Nabhi. Nabhi married this Meru Devi, and then for several thousands, thousands of, it is said that in Srimad Bhagavatam that they were living for several hundreds of years without children. So he was also performing austerities and penances and so many things to beget a child, a son. So in the meantime, they were performing an austerity penance with all the brahmanas. So that time, Lord Supreme Personality of Godhead himself appears and then asks for the boon. So that time, all the brahmanas who were performing this yajna for the son, so they asked the Supreme Personality of Godhead that Nabhi, such a pure devotee of yours, is longing for a son, so please give this boon for having a son. So Nabhi was expecting a son just like Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Supreme Personality of Godhead then said that he cannot be, the son cannot be like exactly like himself, but he can be the expansion of his of himself. So then Meru Devi carries Lord, and then Lord Rishabdeva appears, and he is exactly like a Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he has all the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he was like a pure devotee, and at his heart he was a complete set of qualities in his heart of supreme quality of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he married to Jayanti, and Rishabdeva and Jayanti begot 100 sons. So out of these 100 sons, Bharata is the eldest one, and then out of them 9 became Yogendras, and then 90 other sons became like Brahmanas. Okay, so out of this Bharata, so this is the lineage of from where the Rishabdeva is coming from. So let's go. This is so Agnidra. One of these 7 is Agnidra from Priyavrata, and then Agnidra has 9 sons, and one of the 9 sons, the eldest of the 9 sons, is Nabhi, and then from Nabhi and Meru Devi, Rishabdeva appears. So just this is an overview of Rishabdeva's personality. Being an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Rishabdeva was fully independent because his form was spiritual, eternal, and full of transcendental bliss. He eternally had nothing to do with the 4 principles of material misery: birth, death, old age, and disease, nor was he materially attached. He was always equipoised, and he saw everyone on the same level. He was unhappy to see others unhappy, and he was the well-wisher of all living entities. He strictly followed the principles of Varnashrama Dharma and acted accordingly. He taught the ignorant people how to perform duties within the Varnashrama Dharma. He regulated the general populace in perfect householder life. By his instructions, he showed how people remain householders at the same time become perfect by following the principles of Varnashram Dharma. So he had exemplified Varnashram Dharma, and he was a perfect family man, and he was also ruling the world with a great austerity. Once while touring the world, Lord Rishabdeva, the Supreme Lord, reached a place known as Brahmavarta. So there was a great conference of learned Brahmanas at that place, and all the king's sons attentively heard the instructions of the Brahmanas there. At the assembly, within the hearing of the citizens, Rishabdeva instructed his sons. Although they were already very well behaved, devoted, and qualified, he instructed them so that in the future they could rule the world very perfectly. So this is the place where Rishabdeva started instructing his 100 sons. This is the place where it is called as Brahmavarta, where there was a conference, and then he started instructing the sons. The first instruction from Lord Rishabdeva is one should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. So one should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. So by doing such activity, what happens and what kind of penance and austerities we need to do? So by doing such activity, one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever. So what not to do? So we are doing the first. He was actually instructing his to do the penance and austerity to attain the divine position. And what are the things that not to be done? Also, he explains one should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stool. So this was explained by Srila Prabhupada in several instances. So he has given a lot of examples on this, how not to follow the material life. So out of this, connecting to this, there is this Srimad Bhagavatam 7.9.45. Yan maithunadi gruhamedi sukam hi tucham. Yan maithunadi. Yan maithunadi means all the material for sense and material things for the sense gratification. Gruhamedi sukam hi tucham, for the gruhamedi. Gruhamedi and grihastha, there are two different people. Gruhamedi are the ones who enjoy the sense gratification, who lives on sense gratification, who are materially affected people. So for them, all this, if you go to the translation, sex life, which is compared to the rubbing of two hands to relieve an itch. Gruhamedi, so-called grihasthas, who have no spiritual knowledge, think that this itching is the greatest platform of happiness, although actually it is a source of distress. The Krupnas, the fools who are just the opposite of Brahmanas, are not satisfied by repeated sensuous enjoyment. Those who are dhira, however, who are sober and who tolerate this itching, are not subjected to the sufferings of fools and rascals. So he is explaining who is dhira and who is a gruhamedi, who are actually the pure at heart, how not to be a gruhamedi. So this is how he is explaining. So there are several examples Srila Prabhupada has given, like we should not work like fox and dogs, basically, to just for our sense enjoyment. So we should always keep Krishna in the center and work for ourselves. And so there is another Bhagavad Gita 2.59 shloka which is connected to this. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopya asya param drishtva nivartate. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. So always we need to restrict our sense enjoyment. So this is actually the takeaway from this first instruction. We should restrict our sense enjoyment, and we should lessen our taste for the sense objects. But by ceasing such engagements, we can experience the higher taste of spiritual life, Krishna consciousness. Next instruction was, one should render service to Mahatmas, who are highly advanced spiritual personalities, to attain the path of liberation from material bondage. So one should render service to Mahatmas. So how do we experience this consciousness? So who will instruct us to come to this spiritual level? So it is Mahatmas, who are highly advanced spiritual personalities, who can who we have to take the shelter to attain the path of liberation. So this to know who are Mahatmas. Mahatmas are those who are equipoised. They do not see any difference between one living entity and another. They are very peaceful and are fully engaged in devotional service. They are devoid of anger, and they work for the benefit of everyone. They do not behave in any abominable way. Such people are known as Mahatmas. So Mahatmas, there are different kinds of Mahatmas. We can say, like, even in material perspective also, there are people who are called as Mahatmas, but they are at the mode of passion level. So mode of goodness is they are affected by the material three modes of material nature, but still they are colored. But the Mahatmas, what we are speaking, are spiritually inclined people, and who are actually whose life goes around the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who all are very dedicated, and people who are austere, who always perform penances, and they are the one we are talking about, the Mahatmas here. So just to explain, like, human body, what is our human body, and what aspects of human body are we having. Like, human body is actually a junction. So we are our body is a material body. Okay, so this is a junction of path of liberation, a path of bondage or hellish condition. There are two different categories of human body. So in the path of liberation, there are Mahatmas, and in the path of bondage or hellish conditions, this associates with those attached to sense gratification and women. Mahatmas also include impersonalist and a devotee. This is what I was trying to tell in the before this slide. So Mahatmas, there are two kinds of Mahatmas. One is impersonalist and one is devotee. So the process of emancipation is almost the same. Both want eternal happiness. So both wants to seek happiness. But the impersonalist seeks happiness in impersonal Brahman, but a devotee seeks happiness in the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So how does one can become perfect? So here it explains, in any case, it is advised that one become perfect in the words of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 22.87, Asat Sanga Tyaga Ei Vaishnava Achara, Sri Sanga Eka Asadhu, Krishna Bhakta Ara. Asat Sanga Tyaga. We have to tyag to remain. One should avoid associating with those who are asat. Asat meaning materialistic. To remain unattached to the modes of material nature, we should avoid associating with those who are asat, materialistic. What is materialistic? Materialistic, like in a common language, people who are materially afflicted, people who are like they instead of putting their life, instead of spending time in devotional service, they spend time in various other sources. I mean, there are a lot of things like watching TV, going to the movies, and having clubs. All these kind of things are materialistic things. So to become perfect, we should avoid all this things. There are two kinds of materialists. One is attached to women and sense gratification, and the other is simply a non-devotee. So materialist, on the positive side, is association with Mahatmas. On the negative side is the avoidance of non-devotees and women hunters. So this is how we need to become perfect, by associating with Mahatmas. And we need to avoid non-devotees and women hunters. So non-devotees, even in non-devotees, it doesn't mean that they are completely, because everybody, we have to see everyone as equal. Because Mahatmas see them like they are equipoised. So we should see them equally, because they are also part and parcel of Supreme Personality of Godhead. But by associating with non-devotees, the devotee should not be influenced. That's very important. Next instruction is, those who are interested in reviving Krishna consciousness and increasing their love of Godhead do not like to do anything that is not related to Krishna. So it says it is not related to whatever interested in reviving Krishna consciousness, increasing the love, do not like to do anything that is not related to Krishna. Yes, the pure devotees, they do not want to do anything which is not in relation with Krishna. But since we are in this position now, in this age of Kali, we have several issues, several problems. Even though out of these problems, we are trying to even utilize, like we are using now the the internet and all these things, even in the seva of Krishna. So everything we need to use, whatever we are doing should go around, like around Krishna consciousness. So what are the characteristics of such personalities? They're not interested in mingling with people who are busy maintaining their bodies, eating, sleeping, mating, and defecating. They're not attached to their homes, although they may be householders, nor are they attached to wives, children, friends, or wealth. At the same time, they're not different to the execution of their duties. So basically, he is saying about the personalities, but we have Gruhasthas also who are actually performing Krishna conscious very well. So it is not that we should not we should leave wives, children, and everybody for the sake of liberation. It is not that. Our Mahatmas say, our Gurus say that we need to make that. It is our duty that even the wives, children, friends, everybody should become Krishna consciousness, into Krishna conscious. At the same time, they are not indifferent the execution of their duties. They are not interested in mingling with people who are busy maintaining their bodies. So we should not mingle with the people who are materialistically afflicted. Such people are interested in collecting only enough money to keep the body and soul together. Householder are a Gruhastha's duty. A householder should endeavor to earn money for the execution of Bhakti Yoga. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. Bhakti Yoga. This comes into Bhakti Yoga. So what is Bhakti Yoga? So we should hear, listen, and smaran, and do Pada Sevanam, do daily our religious activities. This is Bhakti Yoga. So as a Gruhastha, we have to do all these steps. So a householder should lead such a life that he gets full opportunity to hear and chant. He should worship the deity at home, observe festivals, invite friends in, and give. A householder should earn money, not for sense gratification. So this is what the of Shukdeva to his sons. He was actually talking about a Gruhastha life, perfect Varnashrama Dharma. So in this perfect Varnashrama Dharma, he has to always hear about Lord Krishna, chant Hare Krishna, and he should worship the deity at home, observe festivals, invite friends, make them Krishna consciousness, and give them prasada. And this is what we are trying to do in our Krishna conscious at present life. So just to have an overview of what is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smarana. So these are actually Navavida Bhakti. Navavida Bhakti consists of all these 9 steps, where we can have a pure Bhakti when we follow all these steps. So hearing, chanting, remembering the Lord, serving the Lord's lotus, deity worship, praying, executing the orders, serving as a friend, complete surrender. So this is all this comes under Navavida Bhakti. If you're following all these Navavida Bhakti, we are sure that we are perfectly situated in Krishna consciousness. Next instruction: it is not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification, by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another. So what happens, because this life, we have been given this life, human body, to develop ourselves spiritually and to know our connection with the Lord. Okay, so intelligent man, he will not involve himself in activities that are materially afflicted, and never goes for sense gratification. He perpetually gets material bodies. If he is not intelligent, he perpetually gets material bodies. So our position is, we are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we have to develop that consciousness in ourselves by following the Navavida Bhakti, and then we will we will avoid getting into this birth and death cycle. Begging, borrowing, and stealing to live for sense gratification is condemned in this verse, because such consciousness leads one to a dark, hellish condition, means by which one gets material bodies. So there are 4 types of problems that in the present condition, which gives material bodies to the human beings, because they always go into the cycle of birth and death by illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. These are the 4 issues that are predominant in at present age, which actually puts the human being into the cycle of birth and death. These are the means by which one gets another material body that is full of miseries. So in the Vedas it is said, asangohyam purushaha. The living entity is not really connected with this material world, but due to his tendency to enjoy the material senses, he is put into the material condition. So one should perfect his life by associating with devotees. He should not become further implicated in the material body. We have already come into this material body. So now we should be intelligent enough to think about ourselves. What are we, and why we have come into this world, and what is our connection with the Lord. So we have to inquire ourselves and research, and then try to connect with the devotees. So when we connect with the devotees, automatically our Krishna consciousness will start developing in us. So as long as one doesn't inquire about the spiritual values of life, one is defeated and subjected to miseries arising from ignorance. Be it sinful or pious, karma has its resultant actions. If a person is engaged in any kind of karma, his mind is called karmatmaka, colored with fruitive activity. As long as the mind is impure, consciousness is unclear. And as long as one is absorbed in fruitive activity, he has to accept a material body. So here it says, like, every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. So our karmas will have resultant actions. If you are good, then we face good things. If we are bad, then we face bad things. So we have to inquire about the spiritual values of life. So if we are not doing that, then we will be defeated in this life, and then we will fall into the birth and death cycle. Connecting to this, Bhagavad Gita 4.37, Etaidhansi samidhognir basmasat kurute arjuna jnanagnihi sarvakarmani basmasat kurute tadha. As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. So this knowledge about the spiritual things, it will actually burn all our reactions, like as a fire burns a firewood. So all our reactions to the material activities will be burned by inquiring about the spiritual values of life. As long as one is interested in karma and jnana, he continues enduring the miseries of material life, birth, old age, disease, and death. When the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance, so what we're talking about is the intelligent persons and unintelligent persons. Unintelligent persons will be in the mode of ignorance. They do not know where they have come from, what is their motto of the life. He doesn't understand the individual living being and the supreme living being, and his mind is subjugated by fruitive activity. Therefore, until one has love for Lord Vasudeva, who is none other than myself. So here the myself is suggested, Rishabdeva. Rishabdeva himself is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he himself says that he himself is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he is certainly not delivered from having to accept a material body again and again. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.19, Vasudeva Sarvam Iti Samahatma Sudurlabha. After struggling for existence for many births, one may take shelter in the lotus feet of Vasudeva Krishna. When this happens, one actually becomes wise and surrenders unto him. That is the only way to stop the repetition of birth and death. So it's very clear that the repetition of birth and death will immediately stop once we take the shelter of lotus feet of Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The next one, even though one may be very learned and wise, he is mad if he doesn't understand that the endeavor of sense gratification is a useless waste of time. Being forgetful of his own interest, he tries to be happy in the material world, centering his interests around his home, which is based on sexual intercourse and which brings him all kinds of material miseries. In this way, one is no better than a foolish animal. So connecting to this shloka, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 19.167, Anyabhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. To be an unalloyed devotee, one must be freed from all material desires and untouched by fruitive activity and speculative knowledge. The influence of Maya. So here Rishabdeva is talking about the influence of Maya, and Srila Prabhupada also giving a strong example of the present condition, is so strong that even a person advanced in knowledge actually forgets that he is Krishna's eternal servant. We're all Krishna's eternal servants. So we should know what is our position. Therefore, he remains satisfied in his householder life, which is centered around sexual intercourse. Considering to a life of sex, he agrees to suffer all kinds of material miseries. So due to ignorance, one is thus bound by the chain of material laws. So what is said is like, it is the sex life, which is what Prabhupada was talking about, is when we are not begetting a spiritually inclined children, then that life for this, that kind of activity for the sense gratification is a waste of time, and also it gives us miseries. So always should be like we should have children who are spiritually inclined. So because always it is always required a union of male and female children, but the children should be spiritually, we should aim for spiritually Krishna consciousness. So sometimes it is found among exalted personalities like Lord Brahma. Brahma, that the wife and children are not a cause of bondage. On the contrary, the wife fully helps. Most people are attraction between male and basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can you mute Aravind?
Arvind has to be muted, Prabhu.
Who is Aravind? Please, can you mute?
Bandhu Baldev Prabhu can do it as an organizer.
Go ahead, Prabhu.
Buddha.
Hare Krishna. Next instruction: the attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and female, one becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. So, Srila Prabhupada has given a very nice explanation about this, but this is one becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. So in purport, actually, Srila Prabhupada says that this I and mine concept, this is my wife, this is my husband, is like they are connected very strongly in this material life. Hrudaya grunanti. He uses words Hrudaya grunanti. They are tied. They are together with the hearts. So we should not have that kind of attachment with the family. But however, we say he also tells at the end of the purport, like sometimes that it is found among exalted personalities like Lord Brahma that the wife and children are not cause of a bondage. So he is also saying that they are not sometimes they are not cause of a bondage. On the contrary, the wife actually helps further spiritual life and liberation. So most people are bound by the knots of the marital relationship, and consequently they forget their relationship with Krishna. So nowadays the people are getting married only for the sense enjoyment. So they have no meaning of their life. They don't know what is actually happening and what is their constitutional position is. So he has given several examples of how the present day condition is in this instruction. Next instruction: when the strong knot in the heart of a person implicated in material life due to the results of past action is slackened, one turns away from his attachment to home, wife, and children. In this way, one gives up the basic principle of illusion, I and mine, and becomes liberated. Thus, one goes to the transcendental world. See, here liberated means not just leaving the family life, but we can be liberated within the family life without that kind of a strong material attachment. Should be spiritually attached. It should be spiritual. It should be a spiritual attachment. So one should actually encourage other within the family to become spiritually conscious and connect to the Krishna conscious level. In this purport, when by associating with sadhus and engaging in devotional service, it says, so how we have to do that? So we have to associate with sadhus and engaging in devotional service. One is gradually freed from the material conception due to knowledge, practice, and detachment. The knot of attachment in the heart is slackened. So that the attachment which is there, this is mine, this is my property, this is so many things that we have in our mind will be slackened from our heart. So thus one get freed from conditional life and become eligible to return home back to Godhead. 0.5.10 to 13 shlokas. So in this, the Lord gives instructions as this: "Oh my sons, you should accept a highly elevated Paramhamsa." Here, he is actually to become a Krishna, to become God conscious. What we have to do. So that is what he is instructing his sons to. So he is instructing as we should accept a highly elevated Paramahamsa, a spiritually advanced spiritual master. In this way, you should take and love in me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should detest self-gratification and tolerate the duality of pleasure and pain, which are like the seasonal changes of summer and winter. Try to really realize the miserable condition of living entities who are miserable even in the higher planetary systems. Philosophically inquire about the truth, then undergo all kinds of austerities and penances for the sake of devotional service. Give up the endeavor for sense enjoyment and engage in the service of the Lord. Listen to discussions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always associate with devotees. Chant about and glorify the Supreme Lord and look upon everyone equally on the spiritual platform. Give up enmity and subdue anger and lamentation. Abandon identifying the self with the body and the home, and practice reading the revealed scriptures. So this is how he is telling us how us should be there, living a life of Krishna conscious. Live in a secluded place and practice the process in which you can completely control your life, air, mind, and senses. Have full faith in the revealed scriptures, Vedic literatures, and always observe celibacy. So this actually he is also giving instructions for those who actually renounce their life from the family life. This is actually for them. Perform your prescribed duties and avoid unnecessary talks, always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Acquire knowledge from the right source. Thus, practicing Bhakti Yoga, you will patiently and enthusiastically be elevated in knowledge and will be able to give up the false ego. And this is actually connected to Bhagavad Gita 18.54, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. By practicing this Bhakti, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, he will be transcendentally situated and he will be very joyful. Nasochati Nakangshati, he never laments or desires to have anything. Is equally disposed, sama sarveshu bhuteshu, he is equally disposed to every living entity in the state. He attains pure devotional service unto me, but mad bhakti labate param. So he attains finally a pure devotional service by following this transcendentally situated things. So, and as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma Karma Chame Divyam. So what happens when we follow this path of bhakti, and when we are joyfully situated in our transcendental state? It is given here, Janma Karma Evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti. So Arjuna, so one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities doesn't, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. Oh Arjuna, so basically by following up all these Navavidha Bhakti and situating ourselves transcendentally and becoming joyful and never laments or desires to have anything in our lives and looking at everyone equally, we are situated in a transcendental joyful state. By this, we will never take birth again in this material world, and then we will attain the eternal abode of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then the next instruction, as I have advised you, my dear sons, you should act accordingly. Be very careful. By these means, you will be freed from the ignorance of the desire for fruitive activity, and the knot of bondage in the heart will be completely severed. For further advancement, you should also give up the means. That is, you should not become attached with the process of liberation itself. So here, Rishabh Dev telling his sons to we should not be attached to the liberation itself, also the process of liberation also. So what is the process of liberation? Let's go through this. The process of liberation is Brahma Jignasa, the search for the absolute truth. So generally, Brahma Jignasa is called Neti Neti, the process by which one analyzes existence to search out the absolute truth. This method continues as long as one is not situated in his spiritual life. Spiritual life is Brahma Bhuta, the self-realized state. Brahma Bhuta, Brahma Jignasa. Brahma Jignasa is actually trying to find out about the absolute truth, but they are not spiritually situated. Okay, so that is why even Rishabh Deva is saying that we should not be attached to the process of liberation itself. We should directly go into the process of bhakti instead of going into the process of liberation. So this connecting to the Bhagavad Gita 18.54, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Nasochati Nakangshati. It is repeated, Samaha Sarveshu Bhuteshu Madbhaktim Labhate Param. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything, is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So then what happens? Once he is situated in the realizes the Supreme and becomes fully joyful, then what happens? So this is connected to Bhagavad Gita 14.26. Mam chayo vibhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samati yatin samati tyaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So this is what, how does it happen? How he comes to the Brahman level? Anena yogena yadopa desham. The instructions received from the spiritual master must be followed immediately. In order to come to the Brahman state, one should follow the instructions of master, the spiritual master. One should not deviate from or surpass the instructions of the spiritual master. One should not be simply intent on consulting books, but should simultaneously execute the spiritual master's order, yatopadesham. So instead of going for the So instead of attached to the process of liberation itself, one should actually receive the instructions from spiritual master. Instead of this is what I wanted to tell is basically Brahma Jigna. Brahma Jignasa. Yeah, the liberation is Brahma. The process of liberation is called the Brahma Jignasa. So we need to avoid this Brahma Jignasa. Instead, going for Brahma Jignasa, we should go for direct bhakti itself. By in what way? Then by etobadesham, by taking the shelter of the spiritual master. So this is what I was trying to tell. Next instruction, if one is serious about going back home, back to Godhead, he must consider the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the summum bonum and the chief aim of life. So what is the chief aim of life? So one must instruct the ignorant without being angry, continue instructions even if one doesn't follow the order. Ignorant should be engaged in devotional service by all means, just like as advised by Rishabh Deva. So the chief aim of life is going back home, back to Godhead. So in order to make someone going back to Godhead, how we have to instruct. So we have to instruct the ignorance without being angry. Continue instructions even if one doesn't follow the order. Ignorance should be engaged in devotional service by all means, just like as advised by Rishabhadeva. So here connecting to the Bhagavad Gita 3.26, na buddhi bedam janayet ajnanam karma sangnam joshayet sarva karmani vidwan yuktah samacharan. Let not the wise disrupt the minds of the ignorant who are attached to action. They should be encouraged not to refrain from work, but to work in the spirit of devotion. So here what Srila Prabhupada is saying, that we should not leave our work. We should not completely renounce and go from leave everybody, but we should do our work, but with a spirit of devotion. So we should dovetail whatever we are doing with Krishna consciousness, and then we should move forward for a Krishna conscious state of life. Here, the next instruction, he asked about what is ignorance. 5.5.16, due to ignorance, the materialistic person doesn't know anything about his real self-interest, the auspicious path in life. He is simply bound to material enjoyment by lusty desires, and all his plans are made for this purpose. So, for temporary sense gratification, such a person creates a society of envy, and due to this mentality, he plunges into the ocean of suffering. Such a foolish person doesn't even know about this. So, such persons are called nashta drishti, meaning one who has no eyes to see the future is prominent in this verse. So, what he is trying to explain us is the persons who are ignorant. They don't know what is the auspicious path of life. They simply plan for what is going to be there in our future, what we have to do, and how we are going to stay happy, which is actually all temporary. So they don't know what is permanent happiness, and they fall in the ocean of birth and death, and they don't see anything in future which is actually auspicious. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.20, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samavutaha Mudho Yam Nabhijanati Loko Mam Ajam Avyayam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my eternal creative potency, Yoga Maya. And so the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. He is not he is not manifested for those who are actually covered by the illusion. So he will not manifest with them. So once in the Katha Upanishad also, it is also said, avidyayam antare vartamanaha swayam dhiraha panditam manyamanaha. Although ignorant, people still go to other blind men for leadership. As a result, both are subjected to miserable conditions. The blind lead the blind into the ditch. So because of the ignorance, they don't know which path they are going in and which path they are selecting in. So what happens? The materialistic person goes to the materialistic master, guru, and then he falls into the ditch. Both of them will fall into the ditch. So they have no righteous path, actually. No intelligence to actually accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in next is 5.17. If someone is ignorant and addicted to the path of samsara, how can one who is actually learned, merciful, and advanced in spiritual knowledge engage him in fruitive activity and thus further entangle him in material existence? If a blind man is walking down the wrong path, how can a gentleman allow him to continue on his way to danger? How can he approve this method? No wise or kind man can allow this. So the next instruction is Guru na sasya, Ajano na satya, Pita na satyaj, Janani na sasyat, Daivam na tatsyan, na patischa sasyan, na mochayet, yah samupeta mrutyum. Translation: one who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. In Varnashrama Dharma, one each in a family, each one has to encourage each to deliver them from the clutches of birth and death. So this is what is actually they are saying. So people, there are some instances in the history also who could actually, we need to see whom we have to approach. Like in the beginning, we have seen that Mahatmas. So Mahatmas are also, there are devotee and there are a non-devotee. Devotee, we need to approach a pure devotee, only then we will get a proper knowledge, a proper instruction to follow the consciousness, God consciousness. So in this, he has to be devoid of all inequalities. So he should not be, he should be very equipoised, peaceful, and he should be looking at everybody. And but there are some instances where in our history, Shukracharya was rejected. We can reject even gurus if they are not showing the qualities that we are looking at as per Bhagavatam. So Shukracharya was rejected by Bali Maharaj due to his inability to save Bali Maharaj from the path of repeated birth and death. Similarly, why? Because Shukracharya, when Bali Maharaj, Lord Supreme Personality of Godhead, asked to give everything, Bali Maharaj was ready, but Shukracharya stopped him not doing that. So then Bali Maharaj rejected him because everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Bali Maharaj was abandoning everything and was ready to give everything for them. Similarly, the wives of the Brahmanas who were performing sacrifices gave up their relatives just to satisfy Krishna. Prahlad Maharaj rejected his father. Bharat Maharaja rejected his mother. So if you are not able to deliver, then it is useless, even if it is a father, mother, or anybody. So there are a lot of actually there's a huge chapter, so I will try to finish it as soon as possible. Maybe I'll take another 5 to 10 minutes maximum. So in this is also connected to Bhagavad Gita. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. And this one, he is also talking about his Sachidananda Vigraha, because he himself is the Lord Rishabdev, himself is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. The Supreme Lord has a body with form, but that body is not composed of material elements. It is made of spiritual bliss, eternity, and living force. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme. Here, he gives a difference between the transcendental nature of his body and the material body. So, the question may be asked why one should be attached to family members. For in the beginning, it was advised that one should not be attached to home and family. So here, this is a nice instruction. My dear boys, you are all born of my heart, which is the seat of all spiritual qualities. Therefore, you should not be like materialistic and envious men. You should accept your eldest brother, Bharata, who is exalted in devotional service. So, what he says is, you are born of my heart. So here there's a very philosophical explanation of how a son can be born out of heart. So heart actually actually shapes the human being. So it is basically the birth happens by the union of male and female, but it is the heart, the feelings of the heart at the time of the union will actually denote the form of the human being, whether he is going to be a spiritually inclined person or whether he is going to be a different kind of materialistic person. So this is how, because all the sons of Rishabdeva were highly qualified people, so they are all born from his heart. So his heart is pure and spiritually inclined. So this is what he was trying to explain. And superiority, he was explaining about the superiority of the Brahmans. So how it starts from dull matter, spirit and dull matter. So different. So starting from the dull matter and to the spiritual things. So it starts from dull matter is the superior. The vegetables, grass is superior to the stone. Earth, snakes is superior to vegetables. Developed animals superior to snakes, which can move. Ghosts are superior to animals, and then Gandharvas, Siddhas, Kinnaras, Asuras, Indra, and Daksha, me, and then the supreme, then Brahmanas are the even superior to the Lord Vishnu. That is what Rishabh was saying, because Lord Vishnu is satisfied with Brahmanas when they are uh, um, more satisfied when actually Brahmanas take the food from their mouth instead of he taking food by yajnas. So that is why he considers even the Brahmanas are the most elevated persons. So the same thing here also. And also the Vedas are my eternal transcendental sound incarnation. Therefore, the Vedas are Shabda Brahma. So, and he is also explaining about the Brahmanas, Gunas, Sattva. We are talking about Brahmanas who are highly elevated, who are not like just based on the caste or by birth. It is by qualification. Here we have to be very particular about what kind of Brahmanas also. So it is not by birth or the qualification or by caste. It is by the qualification. Who is a learned person, who is transcendental mode of nature. He who has sattva guna, sama, dhamma, satya, anugraha, tapasya, itiksha, anubhava. All these meanings are there. Who are mind control, sense control, truthfulness. These describe about the Brahmana. These are all 8 qualifications of the Brahmanas. And then about Lord Brahma and Indra, the king of heavenly planets. He is also telling that how he is superior to Lord Brahma and Indra, the king of the heavenly planets. Okay, Akinchana, the Brahmanas are always engaged in the devotional service of Allah. Consequently, they have no material wants, nor do they possess. So this is explaining about the Brahmanas. So, and he is also talking about the 2 sense organs, mind, sight, words, and all the knowledge gathering and working senses. This is the conclusion of bhakti. So how bhakti has to be developed. So there are a lot of instructions from Rishabhadev to his sons. And then finally Rishabhadev, after instructing his sons, then he renounces his life, and then he goes through cities, villages, mines, and everywhere. He neglects his body. He has no he is actually very beautiful person. Even married women attracted to him. His beauty and dirtiness combined to make his beautiful body appear as though it were haunted by a ghost. However, he is personality or a lot was a possessed that transcendental spiritual body, could not appreciate his behavior, mystic yoga practice. Then he goes into renounce order. He doesn't even care about his physical appearance. He's mentally situated, spiritually situated at a higher elevated platform, and he also gets mystic yogic, but he never performs it, and he sees everything equally. And this is how the Lord Rishabhdeva instruct his sons and renounce his life. And this is actually all these instructions are basically for the sannyasis, and then sannyasis actually. Here he explains also this just to show why he has instructed, even though his sons are Brahmanas, and even though they are highly elevated platform, at a highly elevated platform, why he is actually again instructing them. So here the king Sukadeva Goswami, he says to King Parikshit, "O King Parikshit, just to show all the yogis the mystic process, Lord Rishabhadeva, the plenary expansion of Lord Krishna, performed wonderful activities. Actually, he was the master of liberation, and he was fully absorbed in transcendental bliss, which increased 1,000-fold. Lord Krishna, Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, is the original source of Lord Rishabhadeva. There is no difference in their constitution, and consequently, Lord Rishabhadeva, awakening the loving symptoms of crying, laughing, and shivering, he was always absorbed in transcendental love. Due to this, all mystic powers automatically approached him, such as the ability to travel in outer space at the speed of mind, to appear and disappear, to enter the bodies of others, and to see others far, far away. Although he could do all this, he did not exercise these powers. So there are a lot of other things that we can talk about Rishabh, how he behaved like animals, how he tried to smear stool and urine on his body to keep away all the people from him, so that he can be transcendentally situated. So all these things. So by this, I wanted to end this session. I really please forgive me for any kind of mistakes that I have done, because I'm not actually completely prepared, but I have tried to read, and I couldn't manage my time. So please excuse for this thing. Whatever I learned, I try to explain through this presentation. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Rajendra.
Krishna.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Since we are behind time by around 15 minutes, so what we request is that we request those who have the queries to post it, so that we will relay it to Rajendra Prabhu and then post the feedback on the group and to them personally also. So we will move on to the quiz. Santa Gopeshwar Prabhu, so I have made you the presenter. So over to you, Santa Gopeshwar Prabhu.